Welcome back to Super Recaps. Today I will recap a wartime action movie from 2019 called Torpedo. The movie is set during the time of World War II, and it begins by showing us a meeting between the US government where they discuss possible methods to transport a stolen Nazi submarine filled with atomic uranium. Someone will need to pick up the submarine from Belgium and transport it all the way to New York. General Mies suggests giving this mission to a crew of German resistance fighters, led by a man called Stan. The scene then shifts to the resistance group, who are currently living in a camp in Flanders. Their daily routine consists of capturing Nazi soldiers and killing them to punish them for their crimes. Stan is the leader of the group, and his daughter, Nadine, is also a part of the group, but Stan wants to protect her, so he never lets her take part in any of their activity. This annoys Nadine because she believes that Stan thinks she's weak, but her lover, Philip, tells her that's not true and that Stan is just overprotective. Philip then gives her a unique bullet, and when she uses it, she is shocked to see how powerful. In the next scene, we see Stan having a nightmare about the time German soldiers tortured him and killed his wife. Nadine comes to comfort him, and she brings up the topic of her mother and brother. Stan has told her that they live in France, and he always avoids talking about them. The next day, another resistance fighter shows up at the camp to deliver a message from the US. It's about the suicide mission of delivering the Nazi uranium-filled submarine to New York. After some discussion, they accept the mission and travel to Congo to meet General Mies. He explains all the details of the mission to them and says that the uranium they will be delivering is very important as it will be used to make a dangerous bomb that can wipe out cities in a matter of seconds. He also informs them that they will have to operate the submarine themselves, and they'll only have 3 weeks to learn how to do that. He then introduces them to Franz, who is a Nazi Navy captain. His job will be to teach them how to operate the submarine. At first, Stan doesn't want to work with Franz, but General Mies persuades him by saying they won't be able to run the submarine without him. After that, Franz starts teaching the group about the submarine. He informs them that the submarine does have a torpedo, which is an underwater missile, but they are prohibited from using it as their only purpose is to deliver the uranium. He then gives them a detailed tour of the submarine. When they are done, General Mies gives everyone in the group different jobs to do, but he ignores Nadine. She is confused by this and asks Stan for clarification. He admits that she won't be a part of this suicide mission, and she will need to go back to Flanders in another boat. Later, Franz gives them some more training, and now they can start the engine by themselves. The following day, the boat carrying the uranium arrived, and they start moving all the uranium to the submarine. On the other hand, Nadine feels dejected as she will need to leave in that boat. Meanwhile, Werner is doing his job and listening to the radio communication when he hears a message from another ship and realizes that a Nazi Navy is nearby, and they also see a ship coming toward them from a distance. General Mies tells them there is no time to complete the training because they will need to take the submarine underwater right now before they get attacked. Mies also forces Franz to stay in the submarine with them even though he initially promised to let Franz go after the training. Franz gets angry at Mies as he knows this mission will end up killing them all. Meanwhile, Stan is listening to the radio and hears that they will be under attack soon. So he hurries up and tells the other boat to leave. At that moment, the group hears a gunshot, and they rush inside the submarine to see that Franz has killed Mies. In anger, Stan points his gun at Franz and is about to kill him, but he gets stopped by Werner, who explains that they need Franz as he is the only one who can operate the submarine. So, Stan has no option but to accept. On his way back to the deck, Stan sees Nadine and tells her she will now stay with them as the boat has left her behind. They also come across a guy called Jenga who got left behind by the boat as well. The resistance group then turns on the engine, and Stan threatens Franz and makes him command the submarine. While group members Tam and Kelly struggle with opening the main belt, Jenga comes to help them, and they become fast friends. Stan then checks the location of the Nazi ships to see if they are at a safe distance. He then orders the crew to submerge the submarine into the ocean. Once they are underwater, they realize some of the water is leaking. Franz tries to come up with a plan, but he can't do much because of his handcuffs, and Stan refuses to take them off as he doesn't trust Franz. Soon, a German plane arrives to look for the submarine, but it doesn't spot them as they are already underwater. Tam then goes to use the toilet and accidentally turns the wrong facet. Water from the ocean then starts pouring in, and France gets angry at Tam because if they don't do something soon, the water will destroy the submarine's battery. With no other options left, they bring the submarine out to the surface to take all the water out. The Nazi plane instantly notices them but doesn't attack yet. The crew is confused, and France explains that the plane will continue to monitor them and will only attack when they are underwater and defenseless. He then orders them to submerge in the water while Stan stays on top and destroys the plane before it can attack. That night, Stan gets disturbed by a nightmare again. This time it's about his young son Louis, who got drowned and killed by a Nazi soldier, while Stan could only watch because his hands were tied. This makes him feel some sympathy for France, but he still doesn't remove the handcuff. After a while, France notices that Philip is missing from his position, so he goes to find him, only to discover him sleeping with Nadine. Soon, Stan also shows up, and France tries to divert his attention, but Stan still finds the many ways and starts attacking Philip in anger. Nadine tries to save Philip, but Stan tells her not to get involved with Philip before marriage. The stubborn Nadine then announces that she will marry Philip right now. After that, they go to the deck to begin the ceremony, but Philip is unsure as he doesn't want to do this without Stan. But their conversation gets interrupted as Stan screams that German ships are approaching. They all hurry inside, and Philip notices that Nadine is sad, so he promises to marry her as soon as they reach New York. They have a sweet conversation, and Nadine says that she wants him to meet her mom and brother in France, but Philip already knows they are dead, so he can't help but cry. He ends up telling her the truth, and Nadine is left in shock because Stan has been lying to her this whole time. In the next scene, Werner shouts and tells everyone that the Nazis have fired a torpedo at them, but fortunately, the torpedo goes past the submarine. However, they aren't out of danger yet. He then orders Kellis and Van Praag to get ready to fire their torpedo at the enemy ships. As they are preparing the torpedo, it accidentally falls and crushes Van Praag's leg. Jenga then comes and helps Kellis lift the torpedo, and they manage to fire it at the approaching ship. Their submarine gets attacked by another torpedo, but it narrowly misses them again. At the same time, their torpedo hits the target and destroys the Nazi ship. But because they were too close to the ship, they also got hit by the impact of the explosion. Thankfully, they managed to minimize the damage and start celebrating. This is when they are told about Van's injury, and they hurry to his side, where they get told that Van's legs will need to be cut off if they want to save him. Stan orders Fonz to carry out the amputation, but Fonz angrily refuses. After arguing for a while, they get Van drunk, and Werner does the amputation. Everyone then sits with an unconscious Van in disbelief and sadness. Stan and France drink together, and this is when Stan decides to uncuff France. France then notices how sad he is about Van and tries to comfort him, but Stan informs him that Van loved football and now he will never be able to play again. Stan then questions France about his life, and France reveals that he has always been a Nazi soldier but not by choice. Later, a Nazi ship stops near their submarine, and the German captain asks them to identify themselves on the radio. Stan tells France to handle this, so France talks to the captain and says that he is a German Navy captain. He explains that their engines are off because they are facing some technical difficulty. The captain then offers to send some soldiers to help them, and they have no choice but to accept to avoid suspicion. Soon, the soldiers, along with the captain, enter the submarine. France tells them that they have managed to solve the problem and invites them inside to celebrate. Once they start drinking, the captain mentions a submarine carrying uranium but plays it off as a joke. In the next moment, Van wakes up and begins screaming in panic when he sees his amputated leg. The Nazis get worried, and the captain orders one of his soldiers to check on the injured man. But when he enters the room, he realizes that they are not German, and he shouts to alert the rest of the crew. A fight starts between the Nazis and the resistance fighters, and Werner and Van get killed as a result. The captain is about to kill Stan as well, but France saves him by shooting the captain. Stan is shocked by this, and France explains that he does not want the uranium to fall to the Nazis as they will abuse its power. They then decide to submerge the submarine, but after no word from their captain, the other ship gets ready to attack them. And since they don't have enough time to avoid the attack, Stan asks Nadine to take care of the other ship. So she goes to the deck and uses the destructive bullet Philip gave her in the beginning. She shoots the ship with it and successfully destroys it. However, the ship crashes into their submarine, causing the submarine to start flooding. drowning. Stan also gets injured in the process. They all quickly close the doors to the lower floors and hurry back inside. But unfortunately, Tammy's hand gets stuck and he ends up drowning. The others manage to reach safety, but they realize that Nadine is now stuck outside while the submarine continues to dive underwater. So Stan swims out from the back to save his daughter. The situation seems hopeless, and just as Nadine is about to drown, Stan shows up and brings her inside, and they can save her in time. Now another problem arises as they need to start the engines, but the engine room is flooded with water. With no other options, France decides to swim to the flooded engine room, while a heavily injured Stan hands a wedding ring to Philip and tells him to look after Nadine. On the other hand, France successfully starts the engines but dies in the process, and soon Stan dies as well because of his injury. There is a time skip of 4 years, and we see that the surviving members, Nadine, Philip, Kellis, Fonz, and Jenga, are all happily living in Miami, and Nadine and Philip even have a son now. The movie ends as we hear a radio announcement about how the US government has made a new atomic weapon, and they are planning to deploy it on Hiroshima. Thanks for watching. To support the channel, make sure to subscribe and hit the like button and press the bell icon to get new video updates.